DOTE.
Welcome to the basic tutorial on how to use sync codes. Now, sync codes are a means that you find in other transcription software to link your transcript to your media sources. And we've implemented that too, because that's an excellent way of being able to track where you are in the video in relation to your transcript. And here you see in this Lego demo project that we've already added a lot of sync codes. And here you can see down in the editor, these are all the different sync codes that have already been added, and they link to the timeline waveform, and these are all the sync codes that have been added. So you can see there's a lot of them here because this is the complete length of the clip, so they're very dense. Well, what you can do, of course, is just zoom in, and as you zoom in you'll see as we get closer that these sync codes are spaced apart and they link to the line. So for example, if we take a look here, if we click, then something's happening. They're at the table working on something, and we're here at a pause, and this is the pause where nothing is really being said. And then somebody's going to say something at the next sync code, and you can see here is the next sync code. So we can add sync codes, we can click on sync codes to jump around in the transcript to the right line. So for example, if I play from here, now you heard their voice, but that's actually the other group, not this group, and we're not transcribing in this transcript the other group. So that was a pause while they were working on something. Nobody was saying anything, and that was the 3.3 second. There was a small little something said here. Maybe if we go to another place we can get something a little bit more detailed. Let's say here.
Okay, so the orange is
now you hear that there. Okay, so the orange should be like this very clearly. I can click, I can jump to that.
Okay, so the orange is
okay, that's in Danish, and it's got a translation line, and then we move on. There's a little bit of interference because there's another group here as well. They may be laughing at that point, and that's the point here in the transcript as she runs back.
Okay, so the orange is
and there we are, passing the next. That's the next sync code. Now sync codes can just be added either by clicking in here. For example, we may want to add a sync code, for example, at this point here. If I just move, let's say as she comes back and her hand goes down, she's not allowed to touch the bricks in this game. Let's say we want to put one here. Now I could add here a new line as she's just come back, and she's actually saying. So she's talking at that point. Now it's not a good place maybe to add one. But if we did want to, then I could just put in some new lines, and let's say it was P2 continuing to talk, and she was going to say something. Let's say at this line here we'd want a sync code which is roughly, say, at that point there. Then all you do is click here and you've got a new sync code. So sync codes are a way of linking up lines on transcripts with places in your media. These are timestamps or time coded in terms of they start at 0 and they end at the end of the media in terms of chronological time, but we prefer to use the term sync code to say it synchronizes your editor to editor lines to your media source, to sort of avoid ambiguity with time code. You see we've added one here, there it is there. We can move it, let's say it's not quite right, we could move it along, and you can see the video will move. Let's say we find the right position, let's say it's just here as our hands come down, and then we can move it here too. For example, it might not be this line, it could have been a line above. We could move that up, or we can move it down. So what we can't do, of course, is move it beyond, and an error will come up because that would mean time is events in time, chronological time, are happening before other events which happen after. So we can't move things beyond the line. It would just give an error. So you can see here, no, we just can't do that. But I can move it down back to where it should be. Same happens here. If I move this beyond, it just snaps back. I can't move it beyond, but I can move it up and in between, because this event, in relation to this event, must happen after and before this event. If I try to move it to another place, then that's going to change the universe in terms of chronological time in relation to how we understand events. So hopefully that's clear. The last thing I'll say is that you can delete. So if I right click on one of them, let's say I've selected this one, you have to click on it to select. I could right click and you'll say, do you really want to delete it? And it gives you the line number and the time code in terms of to 1/10 of a second. And you can say yes or no, we won't delete that one. And I can do the same here. Let's say we want to delete this one, but we do, because that was just an experiment. So I'll say yes, it's gone. That was the one in the middle. And then I could delete those lines as well. So I'm just going to delete it back. And there we are, back to where we were. So there's no changes in the transcript. I've just deleted all those things I've done, and where these time codes should be roughly where they should be. That gives you some idea of how to create a time code, a sync code. You can click here on the line, or you can click in here, and how to delete, you right click on the selected. There are a lot more advanced things you can do in how, for example, looping, and particular things about nudging time codes, which are useful for a strategy as you're transcribing. Those are in the advanced video. So we'll finish here on this simple introduction to sync codes.